Picture this. It's 1969. The world is still buzzing about that giant leap for mankind, the moon landing.
Yeah.
But back here on Earth, a different kind of drama is unfolding. A story shrouded in mystery and controversy. One that would forever change the course of a political dynasty. The Chappaquiddick Incident.
A single night on a tiny island. That would send shockwaves through the nation.
Tonight, we're diving deep into this pivotal event, examining firsthand accounts, court transcripts, media coverage, to try to understand just how this one night on a secluded island could derail an entire political dynasty.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how this event, seemingly isolated on this small island, became a national spectacle so quickly, fueled by the weight of the Kennedy name and that insatiable appetite of the media.
Absolutely. So let's rewind back to July 18th, 1969. We're on Chappaquiddick Island, quiet little escape just off the coast of Martha's Vineyard. Ted Kennedy, the youngest Kennedy brother, is hosting a casual get-together. It's like a reunion, really, for the Boiler Room girls.
Ah, the Boiler Room girl.
These were the dedicated young women who worked tirelessly on Bobby Kennedy's presidential campaign.
You know, the presence of these women, most of them single, it immediately added another layer of, well, complexity to this gathering, especially considering that many of the men there, including Ted, were married. It kind of sets the stage for a night where personal and political lives collide.
Right.
Yeah.
And consequences, well, they would ripple outward for years to come.
Mm.
And this contest is crucial. I mean, Ted's carrying the legacy of his family on his shoulders, the hopes of a nation yearning for another Kennedy in the White House. He's only 37 years old at this point, already a senator. And many see him as the heir apparent to that Kennedy political dynasty. But as the sun sets over Chappaquiddick, the atmosphere at the party is more about reminiscing, camaraderie, than any kind of political strategy.
Yeah. There's a sense of relief there, almost, like a letting down of their guard. These are people who've experienced immense tragedy together, the assassinations of JFK and RFK just a few years prior. So maybe they felt a sense of safety there, of shared understanding, in that secluded setting.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then, around 11:01 p.m., Ted decides to leave the party. Mary Jo Kopechne, one of the Boiler Room girls, asks him for a ride back to the ferry. It's the only way to get back to Martha's Vineyard that late at night. And this is where things start to get murky. Ted usually has a chauffeur, but for some reason, he chooses to drive himself that night.
And that decision, that's the first in a series of choices that would baffle investigators for years to come. What's even more puzzling is the right he takes. Instead of heading toward the ferry landing, which was clearly marked, Ted turns onto this narrow, unlit dirt road leading to Dyke Bridge, a bridge with no guardrails, and a sharp turn right before it.
It's dark, isolated, a world away from that lively party atmosphere. And it's here, on this secluded bridge, that tragedy strikes. Ted's car plunges off the edge and into the water. He manages to escape, but Mary Jo is trapped inside.
The details of the crash itself, well, they're still debated to this day. Some people believe Ted was speeding, maybe intoxicated. Others point to the challenging conditions of the bridge, the lack of lighting, that sharp turn, as contributing factors. But one thing is certain, Ted's actions in the immediate aftermath of the crash would forever taint his reputation and cast a long shadow over his political ambitions.
Because here's where the timeline becomes absolutely critical. Instead of immediately calling for help, Ted swims back to shore and returns to the party. He doesn't tell anyone what happened right away, instead choosing to speak privately with two friends, who, as it happens, were both lawyers. They return to the crash site with Ted. But still, no call is made to the authorities.
This delay, this seemingly inexplicable failure to seek help, it's maybe the most damaging aspect of this whole incident. It raises all sorts of questions about Ted's judgment, his priorities, and it fuels suspicion that he was more concerned with protecting his reputation than with saving Mary Jo's life.
And that suspicion is only amplified by the testimony of a deputy sheriff who claims he saw a car matching Ted's description on that dirt road near Dyke Bridge around 12:45 a.m. This is almost 90 minutes after Ted claims the crash happened, long after the last ferry had departed. If this testimony is accurate, it means Ted wasn't actually taking Mary Jo to the ferry like he claimed.
Right, and that introduces a whole new layer of uncertainty. If they weren't headed to the ferry, where were they going? And why didn't Ted immediately report the accident? These inconsistencies just feed that growing media frenzy, turning a tragic accident into a national scandal. You can almost picture it, can't you? This group of powerful men, huddled together in the middle of the night, weighing their options, knowing that every decision could have huge consequences.
It's like a scene from a movie, almost. Ted Kennedy, the last surviving son of this political dynasty, standing on the brink of ruin.
And that clock is ticking. The longer they wait to report this accident, the more suspicious it looks.
Right.
And finally, at around 10 a.m. the next morning, nearly 10 hours after the crash, Ted walks into the Edgartown police station and reports the incident.
10 hours.
But even then, his account just raises more questions than it answers.
Yeah, what does he say?
He claims he was disoriented after the crash, swam back to shore, and returned to the cottage where the party was. Says he tried to rescue Mary Jo, but couldn't.
But B?
Well, the police chief, who had just recovered Mary Jo's body from the submerged car. He recalls a very different image. He remembers finding Ted, sitting calmly at his desk, seemingly detached from the whole situation.
Oh, wow.
That apparent lack of urgency, that sense of composure in the face of this tragedy, it just fueled public skepticism even more. The media, already swirling with rumors, they pounced on the inconsistencies in Ted's story, highlighted the delayed reporting, the confusing timeline, the unexplained detour to Dyke Bridge.
And they didn't hold back on the speculation either.
Oh, absolutely not.
Was Ted driving under the influence? Was he having an affair with Mary Jo? Was this all a cover-up? A cover-up of a scandalous tryst?
The rumors spread like wildfire, fanned by that burgeoning 24-hour news cycle.
Right.
Chappaquiddick became a symbol of political entitlement, a case study in how the powerful could evade accountability.
And amidst all of this, we can't forget about Mary Jo Kopechne and her family. While Ted Kennedy's dealing with the political fallout, a young woman's life has been tragically cut short, her potential unrealized.
It's a stark reminder that beyond the headlines, beyond the political maneuvering, there are real human lives impacted by these events.
Absolutely.
Mary Jo's story. It often gets lost in the narrative of Ted Kennedy's rise and fall, but it's so important to remember that she was a bright, ambitious young woman with her own dreams and aspirations.
She was dedicated, a valued member of Robert Kennedy's team. She'd already accomplished so much at such a young age. And her loss, it was a profound blow to everyone who knew her.
And imagine the pain and confusion her family must have felt, trying to make sense of this senseless tragedy, while the whole world scrutinized every single detail, searching for clues, assigning blame.
It's heartbreaking. So, let's delve into the legal proceedings a bit. What were the charges against Ted Kennedy?
Yeah.
And how did the case actually unfold?
Well, despite the intense public scrutiny and all those lingering questions, the police ultimately only charged Ted Kennedy with leaving the scene of an accident.
Leaving the scene.
Yeah.
That seems like a remarkably lenient charge, given the circumstances. Was there any talk of a manslaughter charge?
There were definitely calls for a more thorough investigation, an inquest to determine if there was enough evidence for a more serious charge. Even Judge James Boyle, who presided over the case, he expressed doubts about Ted's account of what happened.
What did Judge Boyle find troubling?
Well, he had a hard time believing that Ted, who had driven over Dyke Bridge the day before the accident, could have been genuinely confused about the route to the ferry. He also questioned Ted's claim that he repeatedly dove down, trying to rescue Mary Jo, given the strong currents and the darkness of the water.
So, even with these doubts, the charge remained leaving the scene of an accident.
Right.
What was the outcome?
Ted Kennedy pleaded guilty and received a suspended sentence of 2 months.
Suspended?
Meaning he didn't serve any jail time.
Which must have further fueled the perception that he was getting special treatment
Oh, absolutely.
because of his family name, his political connection.
The public outcry was huge. A lot of people felt that justice hadn't been served, that a powerful man had escaped accountability.
So even though the legal proceedings ended relatively quickly, the Chappaquiddick Incident, it continued to haunt Ted Kennedy throughout his career.
You could say that.
How did this event shape his public image, his political trajectory?
It's impossible to overstate the impact of Chappaquiddick. On Ted Kennedy's life and legacy, it became this defining moment, a reference point that overshadowed his many accomplishments and kind of cast a pall over his ambitions.
It's almost as if this incident, this Chappaquiddick, became a Rorschach test for the whole country.
Yeah, you're right. People saw what they wanted to see. Some saw it as just a tragic accident, a terrible mistake in judgment, but others, well, they saw it as proof of a reckless, entitled elite.
And that divide, it played out everywhere, didn't it? In the media, in politics, even in families.
It sure did. It became this flashpoint for all sorts of debates, personal responsibility, political accountability, the power of the media, you name it.
So how did Ted Kennedy, how did he navigate all of this? He still had a long career ahead of him. He was in the Senate for decades, became a strong voice for liberal causes.
It really is quite remarkable. He could have just retreated from public life, but instead he almost doubled down on his commitment to public service.
You think it was a way to atone for what happened at Chappaquiddick, to show he was dedicated to those ideals, the ones his brothers fought for?
It's possible he became the Lion of the Senate, didn't he? A powerful advocate for social justice, for economic equality. But the thing is, that shadow of Chappaquiddick, it never really went away.
No, it didn't. His opponents brought it up all the time, used it against him. It was a constant reminder of that night.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it, how differently things might have gone in today's world.
With social media, the 24-hour news cycle, it's hard to imagine any politician surviving a scandal like that now.
Maybe, maybe not. But there's something else at play here too, right? The Kennedy mystique. It's powerful.
That ability to connect with people, to move past personal flaws, political missteps.
Exactly. So what do we learn from Chappaquiddick's? What does it tell us about Ted Kennedy, about American politics, about the line between our public and private lives?
Tough questions.
It's a messy story, that's for sure. No easy answers. I think it reminds us that even the most powerful people are still human. They make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes have devastating consequences.
And it shows how much we're drawn to the Kennedys, doesn't it? Their successes, their failures, their grip on the American imagination.
A grip that continues to this day. It makes us think about leadership, about the choices we make, and the possibility of forgiveness.
Well said. We might never completely understand what happened that night on Chappaquiddick Island, but the story stays with us decades later. It reminds us that history is more than just facts and dates. It's about human drama, ambition, tragedy, and that constant search for the truth.
And that search, that willingness to look at the hard questions, is what makes exploring history so fascinating. It helps us understand the present, maybe even find a better way forward.
Couldn't agree more. If this deep dive into the Chappaquiddick incident got you thinking, make sure to subscribe for more explorations of these key moments in history. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a fascinating chapter from the past.